how do you support your partner when they're actively traumatized? When they're actively going through a triggered moment that stems from past traumas? How do you support them, and what are some of the best ways to support them? That's the question.
Okay.
So the idea is your partner is
In a triggered state.
triggered. They have, let's just summarize it as PTSD, and they are triggered and activated in that moment by something. So whatever is taking place, it now is got them stuck back into that triggered or into that experience from their past that was the original trauma.
And they're in a loop.
Right? So how do you support them?
The first thing that's come into my mind is short and direct and calm. Like if you recognize that they're in a trigger and you start trying to explain that or explain actions and really get into that, like I'm going to really use a whole long-winded moment to help you, and that you're not, it's just going to activate. They can't connect to that because there are certain functions that are completely offline. So first of all, are they looking for support? Do they want support? Are they coming to you in that moment, or are they trying to gain some space?
That's a good designation, right?
Yeah.
Do they want support in that moment?
Is if they want a little bit of space, allow them that space to regulate. Allow them that self-regulation and time to breathe, even if they're not doing it the way that you think they should be doing it. If they're taking a moment to themselves, let them have that moment instead of coming in with all the things that, as well-intended as they are, like I want to help. I come in with I'll take care of this for you and let me help you and let me love you and you just need, all these things. And that is not what the other person needs in that moment. And even if it's something that they want after, or it would help them in the moment, if they cannot accept that from they're being so dysregulated, it's not going to help them. It's going to hurt them and even make them feel more wrong and push them into a deeper trigger space.
So loving non-judgmental space.
Yeah, loving non-judgmental space. And if they're coming to you for things, or maybe, how would that look differently? I'm trying to think, because I have the verbiage that we have, I need some support right now, but you might not have that, right, when they're coming through that. So if they are maybe coming towards you with something, things need to be fixed, things they're bringing the list of things that are wrong in the environment, not necessarily wrong with you, but wrong with the space. This needs to be taken care of. They're very aggravated, and all of the controlling is coming out. They want to control the experience from a trigger. So they're engaging because they want things fixed. They want things to go a certain way. How could you show up in that space?
I think it's important too. It's like you said, right? It's the loving compassion first and foremost, right? Recognizing that they're in an activated state. So like you said, there's a bunch of things that just aren't simply online, right? Like your brain, you're not thinking
right?
super clear.
Literally, you're
right?
Straight.
And so if they're coming to you wanting help, even if it's in this kind of chaotic moment, in this chaotic space, I think it's very much just reassurance that they're safe.
Yeah.
Reassurance that everything is okay. Everything that you're experiencing is all right. You're okay to be experiencing this. We'll figure this out. What you're feeling right now is all right. And then the soft reminders that you are in this environment, not whatever other environment they might be in. Because I think about you and me, this happens not a ton per se, but it's something that we've got a lot of experience with. I think you and I both will get triggered quite frequently, and then trying to love and support the other person, right? And that's what I try to do oftentimes. Is it's just I used to fix everything, or try to fix everything. I didn't fix anything, right? I used to try to fix everything, and now I'm just really patient, and I'm just listening,
right?
And I'm not it's the simplest thing of what would you do with a scared dog or something like that, right? Like you're not making big movements. I'm not making loud sounds.
Yeah, like facts.
Right?
Right?
I'm just moving very slowly. My voice is very calm and regulated. I'm not getting caught up in whatever it is that you're activated in. I'm just like, okay, everything's fine. Not to the point where it's like, sometimes I think you can get too far into that and then it becomes more of an aggravation and more of a thing, right? Sometimes I'm like, just relax. Never say that. Never say just relax.
Relax or calm down.
But I think the more you can just remain calm yourself, realize that they are suddenly having an activated response. And then your responsibility, and responsibility isn't the right word, but your, like the opportunity for you as their partner is to just love them compassionately through this experience. There isn't anything to fix. There isn't anything for you to do. It's to listen. It's to move slowly. It's to do everything that you can to continually create a safe environment for that person to go through that process. And then, like, as they come out of the process, as they come out of the trigger, as they start to come back into reality here emotionally, then the invitation is like, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about what came up? Would you like to talk about what just happened? And just create that environment where they can then process some of that with you. Again, just from a very loving, compassionate place, not having to, fix or do anything.
It is not. There's no judgment or responsibility there.
Right.
I think like the biggest thing, like if you're like trying to remember all of these things, okay, are they coming at me? Are they needing space? All the stuff that you're trying to remember. I think if you can remember one thing, it will make a huge difference, is that it's not personal. Like it's not about you. Their trigger is not about you. Even if there's like history there and you did something to recreate that trigger. So in a sense, you trigger the fuck out of them and they are responding in that. Like you don't, like if you, as soon as you make it a personal thing that you did, you are going into a triggered space and you are going to meet them in this chaos and it's going to turn into. So their feelings are, regardless how they're there, are theirs. They get to experience it. It's not about you. And later, the conversation can be brought to you in a way that you guys however many people are involved, are able to communicate that together. So it's not personal. Even if it's personal, it's not personal. It's not about you. Yeah. It's not about you. They're having an experience.
Yeah. And like, I think that's an important thing to remember. And I would add, also remember that they're not fully there. Like that whole thing of like, they don't have the full capacity of everything. They don't have their full mental capacity. They don't have their full emotional capacity. They don't have the full ability to speak and communicate clearly. Like the idea is they are triggered and activated in a fight or flight or freeze or fawn response. They're not going to have all of their capacities available. They're not operating at 100%.
They might not be operating at 10% at times.
Like you as their partner supporting them might be operating in the high 90s. And
you're bringing rational to it.
Right. You've got all the clarity.
Yeah.
But they don't. So you just have to have that passion, the compassion and the understanding and the love to go through that in a really supportive way.
Yeah.
And the more you can communicate about this type of support outside of triggered moments, the easier it is when you are triggered. So we have an experience, we just went through this, maybe the next day or the day after that, hey, let's talk a little bit about what we can do better next time this happens.
Yes.
When they do have all of their capacities, where they do have the ability to think rationally and feel and communicate clearly. And they're like, okay, that was really hard for me. This is, what you did this time really helped. I liked that. Don't do that. That one thing you tried, that didn't work. That was not helpful at all. Right? Don't offer me a blanket.
Don't tell me, snap out of it. I'm like,
Having those type of conversations after the fact are really beneficial because it's going to happen again. And I think the reality too is everybody has trauma and everybody can get triggered and caught up in that trauma at some point, and something can re-trigger it, even in a subconscious way that you might not have full awareness of. So it's a really good skill set to kind of cultivate in a relationship. And then especially those relationships that have, like Stephanie and I both have a lot of trauma that we're healing and we're aware of it. So this is like a very important skill set to have. So having these conversations with your partner and in your relationship on a regular basis is going to massively improve those moments, because the triggered moment, the activation, the thing that, like, how do you support your partner in this moment can create a lot of wounds and a lot more shit for you to deal with.
Yeah.
If it's kind of not handled in a delicate way. And then you're just creating more pain to process and deal. So,
and then it becomes unsafe, you think, as like for the partner, like every time I experience something, it causes more chaos. So when you're reacting to somebody's being in a trigger space, it's simply because you are being triggered. So that self-regulation there of being like, there are times, Craig, and maybe this will apply to, like, this is a practice that can be used, but I'm being triggered by your triggeredness, right? You're in a trigger, and it used to, like, I'm thinking I did something wrong. I need to fix it. I'm not loved anymore. I turn it into your trigger to about me, and feeling like this contention that's going on, whether it's like, again, that like the consciousness of going through it, being really, really afraid, especially if you have a physical trauma background, then somebody being just upset can mean a lot of very, very scary things. So if I find myself joining you in your trigger, there's so many times that I start actively communicating with myself. So I'm listening to you. So you can just be going off. Sometimes you start to even go off about me, right? You start to, like, really the things that are about me that are driving you crazy. Even when that starts to happen, I'm thinking of one specific moment where it was the first time I applied this, and it was really helpful. So now it's a go-to. I start talking to myself and saying, it's okay. You're safe. It's not about you. He's expressing his feelings. It's okay. You are safe. It's not about you. He's expressing his feelings. And I have that caveat of knowing that you're not physical with me. So I get to say that I am safe. And sometimes it'll be like, I am loved. I am supported. This is not about you. And you think, well, if I'm doing that, then I'm not actively listening. But that's not the truth. When you find yourself getting triggered, the voices that are going, the story that is in your head is, I messed up. Like, I'm wrong here. This is going to turn to this. You start, like, seeing all the ways it's going to spiral out. So when you're creating all of these things, your attention is going there and you're not actively listening. So when I'm calming myself, reassuring myself, this is not about me. You're expressing your feelings. You're expressing a hurt. It's keeping my nervous system regulated so I can still hear you, and I can active listen better by keeping myself in that place. So maybe give that, like, if you're able to regulate your nervous system, stop yourself from being triggered as best as you can. Allow them the space to be triggered. Then, like, I just got nervous.
That's good.
I got nervous.
It's really
that's
good.
that's a technique that has been working for us.
You're awesome. You're a badass, babe.